We are live. Who is doing the selling and why don't they stop? Guess what? I figured it out, and it has to do with the weather in Texas. Also, today in 30 minutes, we will get the unenjoyment report for both October and November released on the same day. Surprise. Hopefully we find out just exactly how far behind the curve the Fed is on cutting rates. Could be a very interesting day, especially with a lot of DeMark bottoming signals in Bitcoin. Everyone talking about the Bank of Japan on the 18th. Nobody seemed to be talking about this double payroll number today. Hello. Now, if you want to know the inside skinny on this, you want to know whether it's time to be bullish or bearish in stocks. Is the Santa rally going to happen? What is the trading plan? How do I figure this out? You have come to the right place. We have a big show for you today. So what I want you to do is I want you to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. Leave a comment down below to let me know what you think about the show. All right. And make sure you support our channel through Patreon and YouTube member area, where we give you some of the best research in the business. Now, let's talk about why this market goes down, down, down. It's basically down only, more or less. It goes down and then it sits. And then, of course, the stress of breaking 90K over a weekend has sent everyone into a tizzy. Personally, I think this is the beginning of the end. In other words, there's going to be perhaps a final puke somewhere. Patreon has got the trading plan. We got a couple big GAN events like new moons, the winter solstice, and the full moon in early January. Let's just say you got enough excitement there to create perhaps a final puke. Now, on the outside chance, on the very outside chance that yesterday was the final puke, that everyone decided to get negative all at the same time, you will be relieved to know that what is going on in Bitcoin could be because of the weather in Texas. Let me explain. Recently, there has been an increase in power prices in Texas because of cold weather. I'm sure it's cold where you are. Now, when prices spiked for the power to like $200 a unit, okay, this obviously puts a huge dent in miner profitability. Now, two other little items to form the perfect miner storm is that, people are using that Bitcoin network more and more and more. So there's demand for hash power, demand for the network. Okay, so power prices are up, demand to run the network is up, okay, and Bitcoin stinks. Bitcoin has done nothing but go down for whatever reason. It's risk off, it's liquidity. Like I said, every day we have a new group of experts providing us with reasons, right, why Bitcoin should go down. Now, in this case of this triple threat, right, low Bitcoin, high power prices, okay, and, demand for the network, miners have not been able to keep up. Some smaller miners. Now, what they have done is it's called a negative difficulty adjustment. And you're like, oh my God, Bill, I haven't had coffee this morning. And I know, I get it. What that means is miners have had to drop out. They either got to do another coin or they got to do something else with their computing power. So if miners aren't making it, or at least the smaller ones aren't, what are they doing? Well, they're market selling Bitcoin. Now, I'm sure they're selling some of that to Michael Saylor and the corporations, but obviously it's not enough, right? There isn't enough excitement. There isn't enough demand for these guys to be like relentlessly putting pressure on the market, particularly when there's no bid for altcoins. That could be the fourth part of the perfect storm, and that could be the winter mute Binance liquidation from October. So bottom line is Bitcoin is having a hard time because miners are selling. Now, in case you didn't get any of that, it's all right. It's forced selling. Now, normally when you have forced selling, because that's what it is, right? Miners have to liquidate. They can't keep up. So they have to sell whatever Bitcoin they have and go do something else. So when forced selling ends, it can be up only. Now, maybe it's not crazy up only. Maybe it's 94K up only. But at some point here, whether it's now or it's after the Bank of Japan, which again is being covered on political news channels. So I don't know who doesn't know about the Bank of Japan issue. Okay. What we didn't know was that the forced selling was coming from Bitcoin miners. And what we may find out in 15 minutes is that Uncle Jerome and his group of dummies is way behind the curve on Fed rate cuts. So this is a very interesting little situation, right? On one hand, maybe 85 was it. On the other hand, I don't know if there's a negative surprise today, negative for the market, or if, this sort of bleed continues post Bank of Japan. Okay, yeah, there's a recipe for some panic. I'm not saying the market can't go down, but I have said over the months, we now know why the market is going down. We haven't really understood that, or at least I haven't. Like, maybe I'm just like the new kid on the block here. But I mean, when you look at this graph, okay, this graph, okay, it's called Hashprice. So as you can see, it should be at 40. It's got to be above 40. Okay, it was up here at 60 over the summer. And when it hit 80, it was down here at 35. It's just totally collapsing. This is like what miners get for doing Bitcoin, like per hash or per unit, per widget. They need to get $40. Right now, they're getting 37. So how are they getting by? Well, they're selling Bitcoin. Now, I submit to you this. It's supposed to warm up in Austin. So it's high of 80 degrees for Christmas. But in like North Texas and Dallas, I don't know, it's like 50s and 60s. So your P&L is now a function of the weather in Texas. Who knew? Who knew? Okay. This Hashprice Index needs to get back above 40. Naturally, you want to stay tuned with the channel and with Patreon to get all the latest updates on this, because this is the only thing that I've seen so far that makes sense, right? Who is doing all the selling? Miners. Now, with that out of the way, that sounds like FUD, but it actually isn't, especially since we know what it is. Now, all we need is an improvement in Bitcoin prices so that, miners aren't in this like distress scenario. Because right now, the lower it goes, the more they have to sell, or the more afraid they get, or whatever, right? It's a fear trade. The lower it goes, the more they have to sell. If it went back up again and their hash price went to above 40, they wouldn't have to sell at all. This is very combustible for a V bottom. So, I mean, did we V bottom at 85? I don't know. We'll find out in 10 minutes. Is the V bottom going to be where it is in the Patreon report? I don't know. We'll find out. But a V bottom has to be coming. Now, let's talk briefly about Solana. Now, this news came to me right before we got on the air. Okay, but a YouTube influencer is essentially retweeting documents showing that, whoever is running Solana in conjunction with Pump.Fun, okay, engaged in some sort of conspiracy, right? It alleges that Pump, alongside Solana co-founders, operated a meme coin casino to coordinate maximum extractable value with bots manipulating token launches. granting insiders new launches while misleading ordinary people. Holy cow, right? No wonder active trading on Solana is down. So again, frequently with men behaving badly, once it's known, it's over. It's over. So if we know who's selling Bitcoin and we maybe got some hints into what the malaise is with Solana, maybe it's over. Now, speaking of over, we can do two different forms of over when it comes to stonks. First of all, yesterday, Cramer got bearish, saying, oh my God, all the big players have spent way too much money on AI data centers. Oracle stock is collapsing and everyone is losing it over there. At least they were yesterday. So that might argue for short-term price stability, because normally the Santa rally in equities starts on the 15th. So normally equities start to levitate up starting on December 15th. We'll see if it stays that way. Now, if there was ever a reason to get out of stonks and maybe get into crypto, is that the cringe in equities. Supposedly some guy named Dan Ives on CNBC, who does like all their AI stock picking and likes to wear outlandish outfits. Oh, he just got his own clothing line. I'm like, oh my God. I had some like hedge fund savage send me this, and I'm like, oh, please stop it. Hey, that's Michael Saylor's off the hook on cringe tweets all week with this. I mean, the case to get out of stonks and the case to get in Bitcoin and crypto is unbelievable, because we know about the forced selling in Bitcoin. We know what's wrong with Solana, and equities are absurd to the point where, again, they're scaring even the mega bulls like Cramer. That could be short-term positive, but I can't see how it's positive next year. Like, again, we talked about this yesterday. Toby Ward from the YouTube member area predicted the decoupling, that equities and crypto were going to go in opposite directions. Now, it wasn't exactly what we thought, because equities went up, Goldman Sachs' stock went up, and Bitcoin went straight down. Well, okay, that's fine, because Bitcoin is going down because of power prices in Texas. Not because of the Bank of Japan, not because of illiquid, there's not enough liquidity and we need liquidity. No, there's plenty of liquidity. If there's liquidity for silver and gold to go up, there's liquidity. That's a big market compared to crypto, right? And you're about to have an up-only parabolic in silver per Just Dario that's going to look like GameStop. So we're going to have a huge move up in alternative forms of money. But, there's not enough liquidity for Bitcoin. Okay. Wait till you see our QE estimate for next year per month. Crazy. So again, everybody's trying to tell me that, oh God, the Bank of Japan. Look, whatever the Bank of Japan does, it's priced in. They don't do anything. That's typical for them. They talk about doing it and then they don't do it. If they do it, it's priced in. Frankly, it's a nothing burger. Now, these payroll numbers in 8 minutes, that might be a different story, because, again, Uncle Jerome and friends are way behind the curve. They told you that because they're buying $45 billion in treasury bills every month. And, that's QE, by the way. I did like 4 shows on QE, complete crickets, because it's down only. I get it. Everyone's over it. But like I said, we've identified where the forced selling is coming from. I mean, that graph of hash price, I mean, if you look at it like over 5 years, I mean, it looks like an altcoin. It looks like something that went all the way up and crashed and never moved again. According to the data, according to the news article, the last time you saw something like this, ready? July of 2022. That was FTX. Now you're like, well, what's that? Well, that was a huge liquidation event in crypto. So you've got this little perfect storm going in Bitcoin. Obviously, it's different than FTX. Okay, but you know, it's distress inside the Bitcoin mining system. Period. It's on my Twitter. It's numerical. Wow. Okay. So you're kind of having a perfect storm, just like July of 2022, which was, you know, there was a big down move after that. But fear, greed in Bitcoin has been below 30 or below 20 for like, I don't know, consecutive days, possibly even weeks. Like everyone is negative, I think, or actually it's better to say everyone is afraid. How do I know that? Okay, well, unless the Twitter algorithm has changed, which Eagle King says it has, but yesterday's stream on Twitter, like this stream on Twitter, right, which is not my best look because the camera's pretty close to my face on the Twitter version. The title was, everyone says Bitcoin crash, but the chart says this, 24,000 impressions. I mean, if I get 1,000 impressions on Twitter, it's a big deal. I kind of gave up on it. But all of a sudden, I got 24,000 impressions on something that's at least somewhat hopeful about Bitcoin. And at least it's not the crash of 2026. Now, you're going to have volatility in Bitcoin for sure. If for no other reason, it looks like it's going to be cold in Dallas out until March. that could be a reason for Bitcoin volatility. Okay, but you are going to have some kind of reckoning, and I don't know what that does. We do have a Bitcoin monthly roadmap published in Patreon, along with the top 10 surprises for 2026. But, you know, why so sad? I mean, power prices in Texas went up. And think about all the macro experts on Twitter yesterday. Oh my God, it's over. The 4-year cycle, it's a bear market, it's winter. No, it's not, dude. It's not crypto winter. It's winter. And power prices went up. Otherwise, nobody would be selling big boy Bitcoin. Nobody. If nobody was selling Bitcoin, what would the rest of the market be doing? I don't know. Is it that simple? It kind of feels like it. It kind of feels like it. Because, you know, it's like you had the orange man yesterday or 2 days ago talk about pardoning the guy with the Samourai wallet, the privacy guy. Now, if he pardons the guy that wrote the privacy code, he's probably going to have to pardon Roman from Tornado Cash. He's probably going to do it all at once. So everyone is looking for, you know, the Clarity Act. I am too. But would the first step to the Clarity Act is to get a publicity stunt with the Samourai wallet pardon? Because, you know, it was shown on the AIntivirus Twitter. Janice did it. Okay. AIntivirus and Matrix were one of the first people to bring public attention to the fact that this guy that just wrote code for a private privacy wallet got the book thrown at him and is looking at millions of dollars in legal fees in New York City, of course, or New York State, of course, right? So if the orange man pardons him and you get an end or a reprieve to the forced selling, is that a bullish catalyst, or are we all liquidity and Bank of Japan experts still? I don't know. We'll find out. Everyone's talking about the Bank of Japan. No one's talking. I had no idea we had 2 payroll numbers coming out today. That's normally the first Friday of every month. And I'm like, Bloomberg's like, oh, payroll numbers out today. All right, well, I guess we'll find out, right? Because we know, frankly, we know, and because I'm telling you, because I heard the talk, that, you know, tariffs actually do make markets less liquid. They do. Okay, that's just classic economic theory. It takes a while for it to develop. But, I mean, this one guy who was not a shill for the administration was like, given what's going on with the tariffs and like the retaliation and all that, the Fed needs to cut 100 basis points. And I know we talked about this yesterday, but again, these payroll numbers that come out are interesting because if they give the Fed leeway to do this, clearly, even if they're kind of dumb, if I know about this tariff economics thing, they do too, even though they say they're data dependent, which means, I don't know, they'll take too long. They always do, but this will get around. And if these payroll numbers stink, okay. Now, if they don't stink or people are going to worry about the Fed not cutting rates, I think that's stupid. But, there's a lot of stupid stuff going on in the market, and I'm just tolerating it. While refusing to completely throw in the towel, while simultaneously being responsible per the trading plan in Patreon, which is like, hey, you have to acknowledge that if this thing continues to slip, these miners and these forced sellers, just like back in the FTX days, the lower it goes, the more they're forced to sell. And we hope we're not dealing with that. And I don't think we should be, because there's a ton of decent buy signals in Bitcoin. There's a 13 bottom and a selling climax on the 4-hour Bitcoin chart. And the daily Bitcoin chart has a really nifty looking DeMark bottoming signal as well. We just need some follow through on the upside. So basically, it takes one good up day in Bitcoin, I don't know, to create a tactical turnaround. In other words, people are probably going to continue to sell out of fear alone into the Bank of Japan. I mean, I guess if you were a miner and you had to sell, you would want to do it before the Bank of Japan came out because you'd be afraid it's going to go down to 74 and liquidate Michael Saylor. I don't think Michael Saylor is going to get liquidated at 74 because he's incentivized to just take all his Bitcoin from the miners. And I think that's what's happening. You have an organized distribution from distressed miners to MicroStrategy, more or less. That's what's happening. Now, of course, MicroStrategy is probably running low on funds or on ammo. Right? I mean, he's trying to buy this stuff $1 billion at a time, mainly because it's available. Normally, Michael Saylor has to buy the high. He has to wait until it goes up, and then everybody's willing to sell after it goes up, knowing that the market makers will hit it and it'll come back down. Or the miners will sell and it'll go back down. Now he's getting to buy it when it is down, which is very interesting. I mean, even CZ was on the tape today going, don't talk to me about how jealous you are about people who were able to buy Bitcoin early and hold it. Don't talk to me about that. Because you know what? If you're living through misery and pain, this is what they lived through for years. It's a good point. Because, I'm experiencing this misery. I didn't know why this thing smacked through 89K on a weekend. Oh my God. I mean, I had other YouTubers watching the show yesterday going, what is going on? And it's so funny. The little system that suggests headlines and, headlines for me was going, yeah, everyone's talking about a crash next year. Do this and show them the DeMark chart. I'm like, okay. Right. I mean, Fidelity just says, the 4-year cycle is over. BlackRock is also hiring for, digital asset research. Interesting that everyone all of a sudden wants research. Do you know anybody who provides research? I wonder. I think I know who provides research. We do. You don't have to get it from BlackRock. You know what I'm saying? Like, here we go. I figured out how to share on Twitter so you can see the screen. Look at this. The top 10 surprises for 2026. That's Patreon Platinum. We got a whole bunch of stuff. We got the middle tier. We got the YouTube member podcast. I actually put up a second video where we clipped out. And I got another one where Toby talks about the big target for next year. Don't got to get it from BlackRock. It's like, don't call it a comeback. We've been here for years, literally years. And we are cranking this stuff out. So if you need research, come see us. And this whole thing about, if you put all this together, right? Like if you put Bitcoin mining, okay, together with the cringe in stocks, you have, I don't know, you have something interesting. Okay, so the delayed jobs number, okay, payrolls rose by 640,000 in November, more than expected. Wow, rocking with 640,000. 64,000 beats estimates. Okay. You know, it just don't 64,000 jobs does not excite me. And then it looks like I'm seeing Bloomberg reporting 2 minutes ago, but look, the huge drop in October payrolls. Was that the payroll number that they delayed because of the government shutdown? Oh, did they do that? So naughty. Yeah, October payrolls down 105,000. So, right. Federal Reserve paging Jerome Powell, clean up in aisle 6, labor market. So, let's review. Political talk show hosts and Twitter obsessed with the Bank of Japan rate hike a week before it happens, if it happens. No one talking about these double payroll numbers. Nobody. Payroll numbers, I don't know. They don't seem that good to me. I mean, stock market's up. See what the bond market's doing. I don't know. Bond market is stable. Profit taking in silver. Good luck holding that down. I don't know. You know, XRP made people upset yesterday, just on an offhand comment. People were upset. XRP sub $2 for no reason. Wow, that's upsetting. Now we know why Solana's down at 120. Solana's at the Lux Algo discount zone. I don't know, folks. I'm looking at this, and I understand that there's overhang here, and I understand there's people who are forced to sell. But, like, Zcash was down like 8% overnight. I was like, whoa, Zcash, 300-something. That looks juicy. You know, it's not a perfect chart anymore, but I'm like, hey, you know, they absolutely crushed that. You know, I mean, a lot of times in Zcash, if you get like a 20% decline, you know, you got to take advantage of that. I mean, I don't know that we're there yet, but I mean, Zcash was as high as at 468, and now you're getting to buy it like, you know, consistently below 400. Support is all the way down at 330 if it's a mess. Why are we all bearish again? Someone can, I see. Because political commentators on Twitter are talking about the Bank of Japan. That's why we're bearish. When October payrolls were negative. And I don't care what the street estimate was. 64,000 jobs created after you have 105,000 jobs lost. That is a net 2-month decline in the labor market. Again, where's Jerome Powell? Okay, now, again, all this said, all nice, but if miners are in distress, the selling continues. But at least now you know, right? Like I'm completely glued to this Bitcoin Hashprice Index. You know, if it ever comes back above 40, that's the reclaim that you're looking for. Now, if it's not above 40, then we're at risk of somebody losing it. It's that simple, right? Because somebody loses it, and then that triggers tax loss selling, and then that triggers the 4-year cycle narrative. And again, we went through all this in Patreon about, you know, like 5 reasons for it to go down and 5 reasons for it to come back. Now, what kind of comeback do you get? Assuming you get one. Well, I don't know. It depends on this thing, right? If Bitcoin miners don't have to sell anymore, and Michael Saylor isn't single-handedly absorbing all this Bitcoin, you can have much higher prices. And it would stop the alt bleed, because that is one of the horrible things that, you know, if somebody is just dumping on Bitcoin, the rest of the market has no sponsorship. Like, and that still is a problem, even if Bitcoin does come back. Altcoins have no sponsorship. Like, for example, and it's got to be this Wintermute thing, because, you know, XRP people are pulling their hair out. You got like $1 billion flowing into the XRP ETF, and XRP is getting sold. Sold by who? So I don't know if the Bitcoin miner forced liquidation has an ugly cousin that's also being forced to sell. I would prefer to think positive. Like, for example, ZeroHedge writes, privacy for the powerful, surveillance for the rest. EU's proposed tech regulation goes too far. You know, you do realize that McAfee's group, meaning his widow and his team that built all this stuff for antivirus, right? You know, these guys are coming out with a privacy token in January. You can get in on it with a Solana-based token and has 1 million market cap, 1 million. It's crazy, right? This whole privacy thing could ignite massively if the orange man does the pardon of the guy from the Samourai wallet. And that's not theory. He came out and said, we're going to look at it. Now, again, he's going to come out and look at it because his bag is down. So he's probably like, what can we do in crypto? Like, who do you think brought it to his attention? Probably his kids. They're like, Dad, our bag. I mean, it's very consistent with their behavior. In other words, you got the law enforcement files, that's what I call them, coming out in 3 days as well. And I'm guessing they're going to need an immediate distraction, which I'm hoping is the Samourai wallet pardon and the Clarity Act, if not now, in January of next year. Assuming these guys are all still around. So it's not like there's no recipe for volatility in the market. There's plenty of recipe for volatility in the market. What I don't understand is just the insane, rampant bearishness as we all try to wrap just our heads around why it's down only. And I'm not going to lie, that move below 90, that made me upset. Like, that was upsetting, particularly on a weekend. It's like, hey, man, Merry Christmas early. Boom. And it clearly seems like you got, miners are like, you know what? We can't deal with this thing going any lower. I understand. That must be a really difficult situation for somebody, at a trading desk in a mining organization going, wow, this thing just won't uptick. And Saylor's absorbing it in billion-dollar chunks, and it still won't go up. So I get it, folks. I get it. You don't like it. It doesn't look good, right? The payroll number to me feels friendly, and Bitcoin can't rally 1%. They're sitting on it. And, this can continue because one thing I will tell you, and I didn't realize this. I mean, I knew it, but I forgot it, that the winter solstice is December 21st. And if you're wondering what that is, that's the least amount of daylight. So the summer solstice is the day where you get the most daylight. The winter solstice is, the darkest day of the year, right? Sun comes up late, sets early. It's the darkest day of the year. So if these Bitcoin miners are trapped, guess what? Okay. Now, that said, I don't know that you should start becoming a macro genius or talking about interest rates or money supply or any of these things just because you don't understand what's going on. I understand that's very tempting. And, that's what you do for engagement farming on Twitter. Okay. But I mean, unless we're about to have a stock market problem, but even if we do in January, if there's a stock market problem, that money's coming into crypto. It has to. Crypto is a different form of money. And even if that doesn't work, I got another one for you. There's a guy I follow on Twitter, Just Dario. All right, the guy's going to go viral. He's going to have 1 million followers because he's in the plumbing of the silver system. And he basically thinks silver is going GameStop, that somebody is not going to be able to deliver physical silver and silver is going to go parabolic. the way Bitcoin did in December of 2017. It's going to go vertical. So why do we care about that? Well, because interestingly, after GameStop went vertical, you had alt season. Back when, that first GameStop move happened, which I believe was 2021. It set off like a speculative fury. Who, other than just Dario and me, are talking about an ignition in silver prices igniting crypto? Because really all you have to do is just get a little bit of improvement in the Bitcoin network, add a massively oversold condition, rampant bearishness, a football stadium filled with Bank of Japan experts who are all bearish, short, out, whatever, for this thing to ignite the other way. So we know what forced selling does, but what if the silver parabolic starts the crypto parabolic? Who's talking about that? You are, because I am. You got it from me. I got it from just Dario. Right now, I'm putting two and two together with this whole thing about minor selling, with the orange man giving privacy a bump. The antivirus token, the utility and McAfee LLM meme coin. By the way, McAfee's dead. They brought him back to life with the LLM. I don't know if you know that. So that meme coin, which has utility, that coin is $1 million market cap, and the placeholder token for their privacy coin is also at $1 million market cap. And the orange man is about to get on with a privacy event. Supposedly, I saw a tweet yesterday that the head of the SEC was saying nice things about ZK rollups. Because, you will need protection from Skynet, firms that build Skynet, whatever. I mean, this is not going to happen. This is why you've had Zcash mania. It's probably also why Monero, which is probably one of the best performing cryptos of the year, is strong like bull, above 400, right? Like, Monero is at its May high. Monero had to live through a 51% attack. Literally, like somebody tried to take down Monero. Good luck, right? Monero fell all the way to 220 and went right back to 400. What's that about? Well, we know what that's about, right? It's a cryptocurrency that is not being subjected to forced selling. Or it doesn't have an image problem like Solana might. I don't know. I do know that Solana at 120 is ridiculous. Now you know why. I mean, so we've solved the riddle in Bitcoin. We've solved the riddle in Solana. We don't know what's going on with XRP. We haven't figured that mystery out. And in general, we don't know what the altcoin malaise is. We don't, which, again, the darkest day of the year. We know who's selling Bitcoin. We don't know who's selling these altcoins relentlessly. If market makers don't support the market and there's no money flowing into crypto, that's why it is what it is. It's not the Bank of Japan. It's just all sellers, no buyers until silver goes, or until somebody has to wake up. A lot of times off these payroll numbers, the market has to sit around and maybe figure it out. Well, we'll see what they figure out, because it goes both ways, right? If the payroll number was supposed to make Bitcoin go up and it doesn't, what's Bitcoin going to do? It's going to get smacked. Okay. But if Bitcoin is actually stable above 85, just like we kind of talked about in the thumbnail or in the title for the show, maybe once we don't have to be Bank of Japan experts anymore, people might look around and go, why are we selling? Why are we negative? Why are we negative? Like I got this huge lecture from Toby about just being too negative in general, especially about the market. Cause I'm like, oh my God, wow. He's like, bro, you got to clean out the negativity. So, hey, everybody, public service announcement. Whether the market goes up or down, you got to clean out the negativity, because you know what? There really is no reason to be negative. It's going down because there's more sellers and buyers. And it's forced selling on top of that. And when forced selling ends, it goes vertical. Now, I don't know if that's now or in January. I kind of would like it to be now. Kind of would. All right, folks, let's check out our super chats and welcome who's here. We have Zepedas, what's up? Cisco Wolf, Richard Berry, last call for discounts. We have Yappy the water guy, MJ Hits, Ariane, a new member. What's going on from Thailand? Bull Runner, a mainstay, right? Odd Darks, Hal Lopez. Hal Lopez has been getting a lot of sleep lately because we've been going early, you know, right? Kane Vander says winter has arrived. Nico from Italy, welcome. Bitcoin just went down $5,000. Yikes. Why am I so close to the camera? Well, if you're watching on Twitter, it's a disaster. I don't know why. This is designed for TikTok and the YouTube Shorts feed, welcoming all of our friends coming in from TikTok. But yeah, I mean, if you are watching me on Twitter, I don't know how to fix that particular problem. I don't. But I'm glad you brought it up. John Wick, a Spartan Colonel, welcome. Santa Rally Inbound, T-Bone, hello. Cat D. Kale Maris, howdy Spartans. R&R, the end to come 2019. Sunny and beautiful in Colorado. Go figure. Okay. Quinny says yen carry trade unwind. If it ever happens, God help us all. That's so true, dude. So true. But if it does unwind, it won't be expected. You won't be hearing about it on political talk shows a week before. You know, those things, when they happen, it's like lightning strikes and it's like, oh my God. Okay. The Fannies 7469 thinks Bitcoin is going to the 70s. Joe Parsons likes cheese. Well, dude, if you come to the right place, if you like cheese, right? He says, don't get me wrong. I like crypto. Right. And I know I am zoomed in on the Twitter live stream. We'll look at it. It's just whatever Twitter does with it. Normally, when we do the horizontal stream, when we do like a regular live stream, you don't have that problem on Twitter. But yeah, I get it. It's a little bit too close for a 56-year-old guy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the market update for today. We will see you tomorrow.